Welcome, everybody. It's great to see you guys. I actually met David and Matt through LinkedIn, and they were telling me a little bit about gethelpt.com. And they're really experts in support systems for MSPs. They have the unusual benefit to use everyone's support system, not just one for their own. So they have experience with all of the support systems that you guys are using. And today we're going to talk about all the systems, the benefits and the drawbacks, and kind of what to look out for, kind of a choose your best support system, which is really like, one of the core assets that an MSP has. So if you guys would introduce yourselves a little bit and tell me a little bit about Helpt.
Well, thank you, Mikey, for having us. I'm David, here with my partner, Matt. Both of us came from a company that was doing network hardware manufacturing. We were executives at that organization, and we ran teams that included a global tech support team. That team was, pretty busy. And that team was held responsible for answering calls from very, very large customers that would put, very strict SLAs on us. And so what we had to do at one point was try to find some sort of service that could help us cover a 24-hour day. And we never found a service that was good enough, that was professional enough, friendly enough, whatever it was, to be in front of these big clients. And so we said, after we left that organization, this is a huge market need. And then, luckily for us, we found this MSP community, which is amazing. But we're seeing things evolve very quickly in the way that they're supporting their customers, in the way that we can be support to them. One of our big things is we say that we're an MSP support organization.
That felt like an abrupt stop.
I don't know. I didn't know if I should have kept going.
So I'm Matt. I'm David's partner. We were at that same organization. At our last roles in that organization, David was in charge of our global support team. I was in charge of our European division. Because we had offices across the US, in Europe, in India, we had a strong support team, but it wasn't 24 hours a day. It was really about 20 hours a day. It was that 4-hour window we needed to cover. Sounds like it'd be super easy to find somebody to cover that 4-hour window, but we were talking about premier clients. I guess we're not going to name names here, but these are the sort of companies that I guarantee you, whether it's your home cable provider or your phone provider, those were our clients. And so the demands they were putting on us were substantial. And obviously we needed to deliver because the opportunity for us as a business was substantial as well. And so we set out to find a solution that was adequate. And in months, years of trying that, never found something that really made us comfortable. So when we left that business, that's what we sought out to do, to provide the sort of technical service, technical support that you or any business would feel comfortable putting their clients in the hands of. And so that's what we're here. That's what we're doing now.
And as you mentioned, This is a unique situation for us because we support so many MSPs and we use their tools, because the way that we do things is we integrate with our MSP clients as if we're just agents of theirs. And so we see so much stuff, and hopefully we can add some value to this conversation by telling you the good and the bad.
Yeah, that's very interesting. There's so many systems out there, and I'm hoping we can kind of narrow down like maybe a top 5 list. Maybe we'll get there. We'll see. But let's kind of take a step back. You guys were both working for a company where you were trying to find that last 4 hours of support that was just not findable to a level of satisfaction that you guys were having. But even before that company, do you guys have MSP experience before that? And then what attracted you to like the MSP market with Helpt?
So my MSP experience is that growing up, I was the kid that people came to. And I think David has a similar experience.
Yep.
I got my first computer when I was young, and then as I got a little bit older and family members were getting computers, they knew that I was the nerd. I was the kid that could help them. And so when you're, young and want to make a couple bucks, that becomes your business. Obviously, I wasn't dealing with the security stack at that point. The MSPs of today are much more sophisticated than what I was dealing with 25 years ago. But that was a great starting point for understanding not just how to actually fix problems, but how to deal with clients. And I think that's one of the key considerations is not just fixing the problems, but making your clients happy along the way. And so that's what kind of led to this philosophy that we have. At our previous company, that was one of the key issues. We always tell a story about how we had somebody on our support team who the company was actually founded as a memory company before it moved into fiber optic hardware. And there was somebody on the tech support team who was sort of a remnant of the memory days who stayed with the company for a number of years as we were selling the fiber optics. And his name was Bernie. He was a great guy. Never learned the first thing. Hi, Bernie. Never learned the first thing about transceivers. But he would get customers on the phone, and he had this way about him where he made sure that they felt heard. And so even when he couldn't address the issue, he put the customers at ease that the issue would be solved. It would be solved promptly. It would be solved happily, successfully, however you want to describe it. He made the customers feel good about the problem they were having. And I think, that kind of focused my previous experience as, a one-man MSP, so to speak, in such a way that I realized what it takes to really grow a business. It's not just being able to deliver, it's being able to deliver in a way that, give customers the warm and fuzzies. And it was that focusing of the lens that kind of led us back full circle to what we're doing now. As we started the business, we recognized that the service that we're offering, technical support, is valuable for everyone. Every business needs technical support. That's why they bring in MSPs in the first place. Every company, whether they're selling a product, software, whatnot, has customers calling, needing support. We recognize that there's a need to help those people. And obviously the crux of it are those level 1 help desk technicians that every MSP has, some number of. Maybe that number is 0 because the calls come to the owner of the company and he wants to change that, to fix that. That's what's driving us to be in the space that we're in now, is because we know that those level 1 technicians are the ones that are taking, 80% of all the support calls going on every day throughout the country.
So no, Mikey, we don't have any direct MSP experience, but a lot of our agents do come from MSPs, and we understand, what it takes to give a level of service that is incredible.
Yeah, it's very much.
You went on a tangent a little bit.
A little tangent. That's fine. That's what this show is all about. But you guys sound very similar to me. Like you were, the nerd, like your family first, and then that network expanded into everybody else. And it sounds like if you guys wouldn't have started working for the company you did, you would have been into MSP land, like owner operator of some sort. So yeah, that is very cool, and understandably why you're kind of trying to serve this MSP market, sometimes underserved, especially in this area. So in the support realm, so like as MSP services and even knowledge, like cybersecurity and cloud applications, like all of that is still a bit up in the air, but it is becoming a bit more commoditized. So where the MSP really differentiates themselves is on that customer service, and support is really at the front line of that. So it's admirable that you guys are kind of taking on this challenge, which is kind of like the last thing to be commoditized. And it sounds like you're kind of, helping that in a valuable, helpful way, commoditizing support and the customer relationship, which is, a big differentiator. But let's talk about some of the support systems that you guys have experience with through Helpt.
Yeah, so every time that we bring on a client, we integrate with all of their tools. I know you mentioned something about a top 5. I think that the one that I'd want to start with, and if I'm allowed to name names.
We're naming names here.
All right, going for it. Would be in the realm of ticketing, and that comes from Synchro. Synchro right now is at the top of my list. There's a lot of flexibility. There's a lot of adaptability. There's a lot of things that you can do within Synchro that make things a lot easier for our smaller MSP clients. And so if it were me picking a ticketing system for myself right now, it would be through Synchro.
That's interesting. Is there any other benefits that Synchro has or any other support system has besides like the mechanics, like maybe pricing or their customer support or whatever? Is there anything else that stands out as really important when choosing a ticketing system?
I think one of the first decisions that MSP needs to make is whether they need a PSA or whether they can get away with just a ticketing system. there's ways to do it more. If you're looking to just keep costs down as low as possible because you're a brand new company and you're willing to do as much hands-on work yourself as possible, maybe you can get just a vanilla old ticketing system. It's going to cost you $20 a seat. But if you want to actually automate your tools, your processes, your systems, you do need to graduate into the land of a PSA. And that's where I think it's important to make that distinction between the ticketing system and PSA. So when it comes to cost, the PSAs range a little bit in cost, but generally it's just a different tier than a vanilla ticketing system. And I think that's the big jump. Once you're willing to make the jump to a PSA, it's more about finding a PSA that serves the feature set that you might need. And I'm on board with David about saying the customization, the flexibility is a key factor because every business is going to be run a little bit differently. And that's where I think Synchro has a big strength as well.
And you're saying Synchro excels in that flexibility.
Exactly. From what we've seen, the integrations have made it just very simple for our clients to be able to, do the remote monitoring, maybe through Screen Connect in Synchro, to do their invoicing, to do all the things that they need to, run their business efficiently. I know that we said top 5, and then I was like, hey, here's this first one.
Well, I think we accidentally are going to do a top 5. We're just going to go for it.
Just going for it. I think that the other ones that are notable that we can speak to would be the ConnectWise systems out there, ConnectWise Manage, Control, all of that, where it's a more defined and polished tool, it seems. It's not as human configurable as I like to call it. It's something where you do need to, probably seek out a consultation to, get the things that you need to run your business efficiently put into place. And so ConnectWise is great, but it's not as flexible. It's not as adaptable.
So that's really interesting. So you kind of mentioned, for your small one-man shop type of thing, and you need a ticketing system. Synchro may be your best bet, best value, best operational because of its flexibility and some other things. What do you think that cutoff point is? Like, how many support technicians do you think warrant a leveling up into some other tool?
That's a really great question. I think at that point it comes down to the cost analysis. I think that there are some of these tools like the Synchros, like the Halos, the Terras, the ones that basically say, here's this package for you of all of the tools that you need, and it's going to cost X amount of dollars. That package comes with a certain amount of users, and then once you go beyond that amount of users or beyond that number of endpoints, then it becomes a real analysis. From the perspective of the company, the MSP.
Yeah, that was it varies. Because it's true, it really does.
And I think part of the challenge is finding a PSA that's going to grow with you, and I think that's why we value the flexibility of Synchro. It's a pain to try to migrate to a new system. So if you can find something that works for you when you're small and it has the flexibility to grow with you, then that's one headache you're never going to have to deal with.
And we recently had somebody come to us that was, just starting out, and they said, hey, what would you suggest? And we gave them a table, and it had a handful of different tools and a handful of reasons why we'd suggest them, and including a cost for each as we saw it. And ultimately, they picked from that table and said, hey, do you know anybody that's using this one? And the reason why I'm hesitant to say it is because I don't know how they actually pronounce it, because I've only ever seen it, but it's Itarian. Is it pronounced like Itarian? So Itarian was the one that they saw and said, you know what, this fits for me. Pricing, the number of users that I start with, the number of endpoints, the tools that are kind of incorporated already. Who do you know that has this setup? And so we actually were able to, set them up with one of our clients to just do a powwow, 10-minute, here's what I'm seeing, here's what I like, here's what I don't like, just to kind of help them, make an informed decision.
That is really cool. So you have so many customers that are on all these platforms. You can connect someone seeking out this knowledge with someone who has already experienced the good, bad, and ugly of that product.
We're experts in all these systems, but we're 8 out of 10 experts in all these systems. And somebody who's living in it day in, day out is the 10 out of 10 expert. And so we can give advice based on that 8 out of 10 experience. Yeah. But then if they need some help, we consider ourselves partners. We're not just a vendor to our clients. We like to work with all of our clients and help them to grow. Part of that is making those referrals. Oh, you need somebody to give you a little extra help. I'm going to connect you with someone else that uses that same system.
I'm just thinking of the blog post, so I'm going to have to write after this. The top 5.
We're going to try to go more field with these conversations.
We'll send you the table so that you can see what we can draw.
Thank you.
Make it a little easier.
Yeah. So, okay. So we kind of accidentally have like a number 1 for flexibility. That's synchro. A number 2 in ConnectWise. So what would be your number 3?
I think that would be where we'd go to Itarian. And the reason why that one doesn't pop up at the top of the list is because they're a little less defined and refined. They've got all of the different tools that are inherent to their system. They've got a package that you can buy that's a certain amount per month with, those certain users and endpoints. But I think that they're still growing. Should we go into 4 and 5? I mean, I don't know. I don't even know if these are a great 1 through 5. It's just pretty arbitrary. I'm going to pull up my little table.
It's hard to
It sounded like, well, let's talk about Itarian real quick. I've actually seen that Itarian before. Why would it make your kind of top 5 list? Is it because it's very synchro-esque with the flexibility, just not quite as polished? Maybe it's a bit cheaper. Is that kind of how it rounds out?
So I think that that's exactly right. It's not quite as polished, but it is still kind of like a package that can just be delivered to our client. So for the sake of the client that's coming in and starting up their MSP, they say, what's going to be as all-in-one for me? And Itarian was the one that checked all the boxes. I'm trying to come up with the details, but they actually send over pricing based on the different tools that you'd select, and then a number of users and endpoints and other factors that you can have with that base package. And so you're just getting, one block and you're working it to the best of your ability. And I think that that's what makes Itarian just a little bit different. With Synchro, you'd have to say, hey, I'm going to pick this, I'm going to get this, and then you kind of have to integrate some of these things. Itarian is kind of giving it all to you at the same time.
All right. So what's number 3?
Oh boy! Oh shoot!
Wait, I thought we were on to 4 now.
Oh, sorry, we're on 4.
Oh.
Yeah, 4. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's tough to keep track. I mean, I kind of
or let's just talk about some of the most popular ones and their strengths and weaknesses for a minute.
Like, we're going to cut out all the rest of this garbage.
I think the one worth talking about a little bit is Halo. I think that might be number 4 on the list.
Yeah.
I think David's more the expert. I don't want to put the words in his mouth there, but I feel like Halo is one where right now it is incredibly popular, and with good reason. I mean, part of the benefit of Halo is that it does have the open API and it can be integrated with virtually anything. And as well, they've talked about how they will continue to be independent. So think what you will of Kaseya, Autotask, all its various acquisitions and various tools. And maybe there's a benefit to being under that single umbrella. But if you're a little bit reluctant to maybe lock into a 3-year contract, want somebody that will allow you that flexibility and will be around and delivers a quality product, I think Halo is the next one to talk about.
And I think that's where I know the name Halo from. If you haven't guessed yet, audience, I'm not super familiar with all of the support ticketing systems for MSPs, but I'm here to learn just like you. And Halo, I believe they're the ones that said they have put like a 10-year lockup on themselves for no acquisitions.
Exactly.
Yes.
Which is a very bold move and definitely makes them stand out in the MSP industry where there's a lot of acquisitions, mergers, purchases, that type of thing.
So we're a community of people that have said to themselves, hey, I'm going to go out and build a business for myself. Yeah, maybe their intention is 5 years down the road to sell that business, but we're all a bunch of people that are going out and building businesses. When you hear about the folks that are coming in and buying all of those businesses, making things a little bit more corporate, it kind of goes against the nature of what a lot of our clients are setting out to do. Hopefully that's a good soundbite. I don't know.
Oh yeah, that was good.
I'm gonna send you this table, but one of the things that I think comes out of left field, and it came out of left field for us, was one of the ticketing systems called Excello. We got to a point where we were seeing all these ticketing systems, but they started to double up or triple up within our clients. A lot of clients are using ConnectWise, a lot of clients are using Synchro, Halo, all of that, but we just kept seeing them over and over again. And then all of a sudden we signed somebody up that was using Excello, and it was maybe exciting and new. And because of that, it brought it to my list of, my fifth one on the list. Wait, sixth one? What number have we got?
Yeah.
Seven?
Five.
I mean, I mentioned
28.
auto task
Yeah.
on the list.
So on the list, Excello, and the reason was because it was a little bit new and exciting. And, as somebody that enjoys learning all these systems and seeing what is intuitive and what isn't intuitive, getting into Excello, I said to myself, ooh, challenge, this is going to be fun. And then all of a sudden I started seeing myself saying, wow, this is really great. Time tracking was seamless. It was automatic, it made things very easy. Email notifications, regular notifications, templating, all of the things that you would need for your service desk, for your tier 2, tier 3, whatever it was, were just outlined and laid out and very simple to use with Excello.
Yeah, that's interesting. It kind of makes me think of like how many different ticketing systems do you guys have to work in?
Oh, right now, geez, I don't know. I would say that there's probably
It's definitely an 80-20. It's
10
definitely
unique ones.
something
Yeah.
where we see a lot of the ConnectWise, we see a lot of the Synchro, we see the auto task that could say a family BMS. And it's the other 20% that really catch our eye. That's what they were talking about with Excellos. That was one that was new to us. And so we'd love to dive in, explore it, and not just see it for ourselves, but have our agents give us feedback on what they think about it, just so that we can be, advisors, confidants for our clients who might be looking for a change or a new system.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So you saw Excello kind of pop up on your radar, and then you also saw that trajectory start to increase quickly.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
let's talk about transitioning. So like these MSPs probably weren't using Excello before that, or it's perhaps they are new MSPs and are picking one, but I would say a lot of them are switching. But that is a pretty daunting task, especially when you need like some type of consultant for tens, 20,000s of dollars to get you up to speed on the new ticketing system, import all your old data, all that stuff. What do you see people transitioning, and would you recommend it?
We do see people transitioning, and I would recommend it. I think that we live by the theory or motto or whatever it is of, failing fast. And so if you're working in a ticketing system that just doesn't work for you, then yeah, it's daunting to switch, but it's probably going to behoove you in the long run. We have a couple of clients that have transitioned in a way that is just cold turkey. They say, "Hey, I'm going to use this new system." They bring everything over in the way of their notifications and the way that they're setting up their tools, but they don't even bring over ticket history. And so they've got in the background, logins to these old systems that they're able to use kind of like an archive. And so I don't think that's a great way to transition, but you do what you got to do, because if you're going to save, 2%, 5%, 10%, whatever amount of time in a new ticketing system, then it's going to add up over time. And I'd say fail fast and move on.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Like if you save 3 minutes per ticket, like doesn't sound like a big deal, but at the end of a year, that is a big deal.
Yeah, and as long as you're able to track that time in a way that's meaningful, like that 3 minutes in the terms of the person off the street is, oh, okay, it's just 3 minutes. But in the terms of our MSP clients, that 3 minutes is money in their pocket, and if they have a tool that allows them to automatically track the time or makes things 3 minutes faster, but they can still bill for those 3 minutes, that's literally dollars that's going to their wallets.
And it's responsiveness to the client.
Yeah.
That's 3 minutes that's not spent doing the paperwork, essentially, where you can be working the next ticket and get to that next person that much sooner. Happier clients means more clients, more client retention. So it helps grow the business, not just save the time.
Yeah.
So you recommend to switch, like if you're feeling the itch to
Which?
there has to be the itch to move to something else, like your support system is not working for you, for your business, for whatever reason, and you're like, okay, we need to look elsewhere. And we can also talk about like how to get in that mindset of fail fast, like you said, but the first question I had is like, what would be the checklist of things that you were looking for in a new solution?
Wow. That's a great question. I think that there's a lot of pain points that are going to come up for each client, independent of us. Their workflow is going to be nuanced in a way that, their pain is going to be in certain areas. Our pain, speaking as an MSP support organization, is the time tracking and is the efficiency. And so I think that a lot of times a client can look at it and say, hey, this thing that was supposed to take 10 minutes ended up taking me 15 minutes. Why? And if it turns out that it's because they were clicking around to a bunch of different places in their ticketing system, or if they had a hard time remoting into a client system, or they were doing something with invoicing and it meant that they had to double check, triple check, do something like that. I think that those pains are going to become apparent for them, and then they're going to say, you know what, there's got to be something better out there. And with the abundance of ticketing systems and the abundance of PSAs, I think there is. It's just that I can't say it's going to be, one over the other for everybody.
And I think that's one difference in mindset, whether you are just launching or considering switching, is the integration. For us, yes, time tracking is very important. But I think for an MSP, one of the key considerations, especially if you're making a switch, is the available integrations and the ease of integrations. And that's where, having an open API is great because it'll allow for any integration. Having pre-built integrations is potentially even better, because if you are going to make a switch, there's less downtime, there's less change over time, because you're basically, unplugging something from the old system, plugging into the new system. There's no change to that functionality. If you're changing PSAs and your current RMM is connected to your current PSA, you're keeping that RMM, and you just want to have it switch to the new PSA, you're keeping a simple workflow. Your agents are accustomed to being in a ticket, clicking screen connect, whatever it is, to have that RMM function. They're still going to have the same workflow. The screen in front of them is just going to look a little bit different because you're going from one PSA to the next. If you are making a change and you're going from a system where there is an existing integration, whether you built it yourself or it was pre-built, and you're moving to a system that doesn't allow for an integration with your existing RMM at all, or doesn't have a pre-built integration, maybe you're going to have a completely different workflow long-term because you need to go to a separate window to use the RMM, or maybe you just need to allow for more time to actually build that integration. So I think a key consideration is, how smooth is that transition going to be, and how much is your workflow going to change? Maybe for the better. Maybe the workflow will be improved, but you do need to consider that before you make a change.
Yeah, so don't just go, like you did mention that some of your customers just cold turkey quit and just jump over, like, we're just jumping in, we're going to try something new, which is great that they have the nimbleness to do that, and the courage, I guess you could say.
More courage than nimbleness, I think, in some cases.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really cool. So, and when you were talking about RMMs and PSAs and how they, tie in with ticketing systems, sometimes they're all the same thing. And that's how these ecosystems get built up and become cumbersome, and allow gaps where things like Excello or Halo or whatever can fill those needs. So I want to talk a second about picking the best tool for the job rather than being in the ecosystem of a single vendor, which DNS Filter struggles with too, because we do one thing very well. I would say the best on the planet easily, but we don't do everything. And these ticketing systems are like that. So you got your RMM, your ticketing system, your PSA, like sometimes those are kind of like table stakes for an MSP. PSA, you mentioned that you can kind of get away with, not having all of those, but I think those three things are really common across MSPs. So let's talk about picking the best tool for the job versus being in the ecosystem.
It's one and the same. I mean, one of the benefits of being in the ecosystem is that you have some of that flexibility. I mean, I know in a sense, Kaseya is the boogeyman. Has DNS Filter been bought by Kaseya? I don't know.
No.
One of those things where, I think a lot of their strategy is just make those acquisitions and not necessarily doing the integrations on the back end in the immediate short term. But in the long term, there is going to be some fluidity between those systems. So when you talk about having the best tool for the job, in a sense, being in the ecosystem might make your job easier. Maybe it's something where you're going to pick a tool that's not the best tool, but it's the most accessible, it's the easiest to implement. Is it worth having 95% of the functionality if it means you can implement it that much sooner? I don't think there's a right answer to that. I think it depends on how quickly you're trying to move. It depends on, how much developer bandwidth you have. If you're talking about building integrations, maybe you're somebody that has a bunch of network experts on staff and not a bunch of coders on staff. You want some low code, easy integrations. It's worth being in the ecosystem because you don't have the resources to build the perfect solution. Whereas if you're the sort of house that has the developers who have somebody building automation, doing the scripting, then you're going to be inclined to find the best possible tool so you can maximize the value out of it. Kind of just depends on the sort of business that you have, the resources.
I'm curious if at Helpt, you guys kind of assist with that scripting or some automation and just some best practices, because I'm sure that's kind of like the next step of like, okay, our ticketing system, our support system is like under control. Like now we need to make other things more efficient. And the top of my brain, I used to be a DevOps engineer, still am in my personal life, but I want to, like, if I do things more than once on a computer, like I'm trying to figure out how to make the computer do it for me. So do you guys play a role in that at all?
Right. One of the things that I'm thinking about is a video game called Zelda. It's on the Switch, Breath of the Wild. Matt and I are, that type of nerd that enjoy playing that game. And I think that for me, I was enjoying all of the button clicks, and I was enjoying going through all the different menus and, cooking and building, equipment or whatever it was. And then when Matt started playing it, he said, I hate the fact that I'm spending all this time in these menus. And so to answer your question, yes, I think that Matt says to himself, how do I do this the fastest, most efficient way? If somebody came to us and said, hey, we need some help with this automation. Hey, we need some help with this scripting. We can absolutely help.
It's interesting. We actually had a client come to us this morning saying, hey, we're familiar with Power Automate. We have very basic level of competence in developing with Power Automate. Do you have somebody that could maybe help us? And the answer to that was yes. We're here at the disposal of our clients. Our primary plan is a consumption-based plan. We are here to not just take the inbound calls, not just to be that level 1 service desk, but to provide any sort of support that you would need from a technician. And so this was a great case of, we have engineers on staff who can help you with that. So by all means, let us do that for you. And they were happy to hear it.
One of my favorite things is triggering different workflows off of emojis. So I like to be able to put like the star eyes on things and have, some email being sent or some workflow to start running from that. So yes, and in the same way that if somebody came to us and said, hey, what ticketing system would you use? Or hey, what tool would you use? They come to us and say, hey, can you help me with this thing? And we say, absolutely. We're still building a network, but we have a very strong network of folks that are in this space or in this community that can help. We send a message out and say, hey, what do you think about this? Or what do you think about that? And then we get some feedback to the requester quickly.
So how does Helpt work so smoothly across all these tools? Like, you guys obviously have to have some efficiencies built in to make this profitable. So I think maybe just me, I could learn something from learning how you guys operate in that realm.
So, there's a lot of folks out there that talk about, integrations into people's different systems. There's a lot of folks out there that talk about, defining requirements before they'll provide help desk or provide service desk. For us, we want to act as a part of the team. And what that means is that we have a platform that allows our agents to jump into different groups. Each one of those groups is, one of our clients. In each one of our clients' groups are the tools that they use. And so that platform paired with, really strong management allows for our agents to take a ticket for, client A, and then 2 minutes later take a ticket for client B, and then just jump between groups and satisfy the requirement of the ticket.
Anything to add there, Matt? You look like you were.
No, I think that was a
You're like,
good description. I mean, in a sense, you kind of get into our secret sauce. We have this custom environment that our objective is to make things as smooth for our agents as possible. We bring in a team of people who are analytical thinkers, they're troubleshooters, they're problem solvers. We don't want them to have to remember which URL to go to, what login to use. We have a platform that automates that out across the board. So that all they need to think about is, how do I solve this client's problem? And that just lets them be as effective as possible. We try to maximize what our team is able to do by simplifying for them, letting them focus on, the reason that we brought them on board.
Yeah, you guys are really like maybe on purpose or accidentally like a technical advisor to the MSP in a lot of ways. And the MSP is the technical advisor to their clients. So I'm wondering if you have any like advice or words of wisdom to the MSP reaching out to their clients, either with, technical expertise or just business advice. Like, how does the relationship that you guys have with the MSP translate into the relationship MSPs have with their clients?
So I think that ties in really well. First and foremost, we say that we are an MSP support organization because we're here to support the MSPs and the MSP community. And I think that the words of wisdom, advice, whatever, if you can call it that, is that I always tell somebody that you have to spend time to save time. And I think that when you think about that at the surface, it's like, okay, well, yeah, of course, I've got to go do that thing that's going to make it easier to do that thing again in the future. But in reality, it's all the things that we were just talking about. It's the automations. It's spending time switching to a new tool because you found that the old tool isn't good enough. It's making that investment in the time to save the time in the future. And it's a tough thing for a lot of people that are running it at breakneck speeds. But we can help with that. We can give suggestions. We can even help with some of the nitty gritty. We do the project work just like the rest of them. If there's some migration that needs to happen and we can lend a hand, we will.
Again, I think the key is that we're not just a vendor. We want to be a partner. Mm-hmm. We're not removing the human element and just giving you software to use. We are introducing the human element. That's what we're here to do. And our brain power is a key component of that. We want to help you grow your business. And so we are here to offer whatever guidance, assistance you need to do that.
Yeah, the most successful vendors in the MSP space think exactly that same way, just like DNS Filter does. So Great to see that. Well, tell me where we can find you guys on the internet.
So you can find us at gethelpt.com. The company name is Helpt, not Helpt. We get that sometimes, but
HELPT, Helpt.
Gethelpt.com. You can give us a call. We've got a main line listed there. We have our cell phones. Our goal is to always be available because we know that business works at all hours.
We try to live our company credo. So give us a call, and if you're getting through to one of us, that means it's working. Obviously, if you sign up as one of our clients, your customers are going to be getting our agents 24/7, 365. But if you call, you're going to get us. Mm-hmm. So give us a call and let's talk.
I haven't slept in years. Just gonna
say. I don't need sleep. When I'm sleeping, I'm actually playing Zelda Breath of the Wild.
What did you have to do before that?
Oh, that's a good question.
Well, thank you guys for joining me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Mike.
Awesome.
We appreciate
Thanks, Mikey.
it.